A defiant 17-year-old girl goes against her family to marry the man she loves, but her husband is found dead 11 years after their wedding day. The story that unfolds defies all imagination. This is the story of Sukhjeet Singh. Sukhjeet Singh was born in the year 1982 to his mother Bans Kaur and father Sardar Baldev Singh in a small village of Basantpur in Shahjahanpur, Uttar Pradesh. He had an elder sister called Kulvinder and was the youngest of Bans Kaur and Baldev Singh's children. There was almost a decade of difference between the two siblings, and so the entire family doted on Sukhjeet, who looked absolutely adorable. The family lovingly called him Sonu, but tragedy struck when Sonu was about to be 10 years old. His father, Sardar Baldev Singh, had a fatal accident and passed away in the year 1991. After her husband's untimely death, Bans Kaur was left all alone with the responsibility of two children. While Kulvinder, the elder sister, was already nearing 20, Sukhjeet was still so young. So to give Sonu some distance, he was first sent off to boarding school. But shortly after that, Bans Kaur, the mother, realized that her decision was not working, so she called him back and got some support from her community, and especially from a woman called Maninder Kaur, who was soon to be the mother-in-law of Sukhjeet Singh's older sister, Kulvinder. Kulvinder's fiancé, Kuldeep, and his mother, Maninder Kaur, lived in Harampur in Kapurthala, Punjab, and so the two families made the decision to enroll young Sukhjeet into a school in the nearby village. Some time later, Sukhjeet Singh's sister Kulvinder married Kuldeep and they moved to the UK. The phenomena of moving abroad was and still is far too common in Punjab. It's been a popular decision since the year 1947, when India was subdivided into India and Pakistan, and then again in 1966, when Punjab was disrupted yet again and was further subdivided into three parts. The three states of Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh were formed. Later, when the Green Revolution of Punjab died down by the 1980s and agriculture became stagnant, lots of Punjabis saw their salvation in moving abroad. And Sukhjeet's family was one of them. When Sukhjeet joined his new school in the village, after the crushing catastrophe of his father's death, Sukhjeet found solace in his friendship with a young boy of his age called Gurdeep. Gurdeep was also called Mithu. Gurdeep hailed from the nearby village of Jainpur. Like Sukhjeet, Gurdeep too did not live with his parents due to difficult circumstances and was being taken care of by his aunt. It was almost like fate had brought these two boys together. This bond, forged in the innocence of childhood and simplicity of rural life, helped the two boys recuperate from their respective griefs. The two boys were inseparable until the year 2001, when they both graduated high school and Sonu, Sukhjeet, moved to the UK to join his sister, while his best friend Gurdeep, also called Mithu, moved to Dubai to work on his family's marble business. After moving to the town of Slough in the UK, Sukhjeet joined his sister Kulvinder and her husband Kuljit, who were running a newspaper delivery business. They owned several delivery vans. This transition marked a new beginning for Sonu. His life in Slough, UK was marked by many entrepreneurial endeavors. It was in Slough that he had a chance meeting that would eventually lead to his marriage. After moving to Slough, Sonu ventured into opening a pizza shop and also worked as a building contractor. It was during one of these building projects specifically while constructing a house for an Italian client in Slough, that he met his future wife, Ramandeep. Ramandeep Kaur was the second of three daughters of Paul Singh Mann and his wife Amarjeet Kaur Mann. Both of these people were employed at a chocolate factory. They were residents in the same neighborhood where Sonu, also known as Sukhjeet, was engaged in a building project. Ramandeep grew up in a large tree-lined street in Slough, Berkshire. At this time, Ramandeep herself was 17 years old and was working at a shop in Slough. The name of the shop was Argos. Ramandeep and Sukhjeet met in the year 2002, and Sukhjeet at this time was around 20 years old. This is when their relationship began to bloom. However, this union was not looked at favorably by Ramandeep Kaur's family. Sukhjeet's brother-in-law Kuldeep, who now lives in Oxford, used to run 5 liquor shops during the time when Sukhjeet and Ramandeep were in a relationship. So Ramandeep Kaur's family was not happy about the background that Sukhjeet came from. Their union was marked by defiance and was rooted in a narrative that spans generations and cultural backgrounds. In an article by the Indian Express, Sukhjeet Singh in his interview tells them, quote, Ramandeep's family had established deep roots in the UK over many generations. They are part of centuries-old Punjabi community in the country and didn't like that their daughter had chosen someone who they saw as an upstart. But Ramandeep put her foot down. She even set aside her earlier engagement with another man to be with Sukhjeet, unquote. This eventually led to their marriage in the year 2005. Shortly after their wedding, Ramandeep and Sukhjeet went to visit Ramanjeet's mother-in-law, Bans Kaur, who lived alone in the village of Basantpur with her German shepherd. Reportedly, Sukhjeet quote-unquote worshipped the ground his wife walked on. He waited on her hand and foot, and everyone got the impression that Ramandeep always got from Sukhjeet whatever she wanted. The story of Ramandeep and Sukhjeet's wedding and eventual marriage was a symbol of love's triumph over familial resistance and defiance. At this time, their life was filled with hope and anticipation. And soon after their wedding, the couple had 2 boys. Life in the UK went smoothly until a small change in the year 2013. By this time, these parents had 2 children and they moved from Slough to Derby, which is situated in this countryside of central England. Here, Sukhjeet embarked on a new phase of his career and started working as a lorry driver while continuing his involvement in several building projects. This period of their life was marked with great financial success, and they were able to purchase 2 houses and several cars, which seemed to reflect that they had very happy, stable, prosperous family life. It was around this time that Sukhjeet's childhood best friend Gurdeep was visiting India from Dubai, and he met his childhood best friend's mother and got his phone number. Upon his return to Dubai, Sukhjeet was contacted by Gurpreet and they connected over WhatsApp and then of course on Facebook. The 2 friends eventually met up in Dubai, where Sukhjeet took his wife and 2 children to meet his childhood best friend. Meeting his friend after more than a decade was a time of nostalgia. Both of the friends were so happy to see each other, and their palpable happiness can be witnessed in their Facebook pictures. Subsequently, 1 year later, in the year 2015, when Sukhjeet and Ramandeep went to visit India, Gurdeep too decided to visit India at the same time so the friends could meet up again. Gurdeep, in fact, received Sukhjeet and Ramandeep and their two boys at the Delhi airport, and he drove them to Sukhjeet's family home in Shahjahanpur. After spending 2 days in the ancestral village in Shahjahanpur, Gurdeep joined Sukhjeet's family and took them on a long tour to various iconic Indian cities such as Agra, Jaipur, Jodhpur, and New Delhi. After this long trip, they returned again to Shahjahanpur on August 15, 2016. And they were also joined by Ramandeep's parents and Ramandeep's younger brother. This was in fact the first time that Ramandeep's family was visiting Sukhjeet's ancestral home and village. In the next 1 week, Sukhjeet, Gurdeep, Ramandeep, and the two children shared several moments together in Shahjahanpur. Eventually, on August 22nd, Gurpreet returned to his family home in Punjab, and Ramandeep's parents also left Shahjahanpur to go and visit their relatives in different parts of Punjab. After all the guests had departed, in the last week of August, Ramandeep and Sukhjeet were living a blissful life in Bans Kaur's house in Shahjahanpur. Eventually, on August 22nd, Gurpreet returned to his family's home in Punjab, and Ramandeep's parents also left to visit their relatives all over India. After everyone had departed, Ramandeep and Sukhjeet were living blissfully with their two boys in Bans Kaur's house in Shahjahanpur. Then on the night of September 1st, 2016, Ramandeep cooked biryani for the entire family. This was in fact the first time that she was cooking for the family, and Bans Kaur was very happy with this gesture. Around 10 p.m. after having dinner, the family retired to their respective bedrooms. Bans Kaur's bedroom was on the ground floor of the house, while Sukhjeet's family was staying on the first floor. That night, the boys were sleeping right next to their father on his right-hand side. And as the next morning emerged, which was September 2nd of 2016, Sukhjeet's 9-year-old son tried to wake him. However, he could not wake up his father, and so he ran downstairs and informed his grandmother, and she rushed upstairs, and what they saw was truly horrific. Sukhjeet was lying on the bed in a pool of his own blood, and his throat had been slashed. The police was summoned, but it took them time to get to this house, as it was in a small village on the outskirts. In the meantime, the family, including the two young boys who were traumatized, were in the room where Sukhjeet's body was lying. Ironically, Arjun, the older boy, was exactly the same age as Sukhjeet was when he lost his own father in 1991. Sukhjeet's entire family, including Bans Kaur, the grandmother, the two sons, and the wife Ramandeep, were crying hysterically. By the time the police arrived, there was a crowd of people in the house. The entire family and the community was stunned at the horrific incident. And in fact, if you see any online pictures of this case, you will see horrific pictures in which the two children are sitting right next to their father's deceased body. For the life of me, I can't understand why the police did not command the family or ask the family to move to another room. It's so traumatizing as it is to lose a parent, and those two boys were in the room the entire time, witnessing their father's slashed throat. It was in fact on the same day that the son was finally able to speak, the older son, and he told something quite interesting to his aunt. He told his aunt that he had in fact witnessed what had happened the night before. He relayed the incident to the aunt, and she subsequently called the police. That's when the true horrifying nature of this entire crime came to light. The boy cried out his mother's name, and then the family was completely stunned. And that's when Ramandeep was taken into custody. Here's what the police and the prosecution say what happened. On the night of September 1st, 2016, Ramandeep laced the biryani that she served for dinner with powerful sedatives, but her elder son chose to eat noodles instead and skipped on eating the meal that he was served. A couple of hours later, Sukhjeet's best friend, Gagandeep, arrived on taxi around midnight and met up with Ramandeep. These two were having an affair with each other for the past 1 year, ever since they had met up in Dubai. The extramarital affair between the two was not known to anyone. However, it's been speculated that Sukhjeet apparently suspected that his wife was carrying on something with someone, but wasn't sure with whom. To him, it was very apparent that his wife was always on the phone for extended periods of time every single day, and she was neglecting her family in this process. Around midnight, when Gagandeep arrived to the family home, he first met up with Ramandeep in the family's garage, and then both of them walked upstairs, where Gagandeep and the two boys were sleeping. Next, the elder boy saw that Ramandeep was saddling her husband and she was almost sitting on his chest. Next, Ramandeep and Gagandeep together tried to smother Sukhjeet to death. However, despite strong sedatives and the pillow, they couldn't suffocate him. So they resorted to something truly horrific. They used a hammer and fractured Sukhdeep's skull by bludgeoning his skull several times. This entire thing has an element of overkill because they were not done yet. They tried suffocating him, they fractured his skull, they hit him so many times, and then finally, as a coup de grace, they slit his throat. This entire time, Arjun was lying right next to his father and was stupefied because of fear and did not move an inch while the killing was going on. However, he witnessed the entire thing from beginning to end. Next, Gagandeep, after killing his best friend, leaves the family home and goes back to his hotel, while Ramandeep pretended to go to sleep. In the morning, when the children tried to wake up their father, Ramandeep pretended not to know what had happened and subjected her children to what can be argued is the most horrific thing a child could ever witness: the dead body of their father. Both the children saw the father lying in a pool of blood on their own bed. As if this was not disgusting enough, Ramandeep next blamed her children and said that her son was misremembering things. She told the police that she was not one of the culprits. However, the police took her in custody. In 2016, a few hours later, on September 2nd of 2016, a few hours after the murder, Gagandeep, the so-called best friend, was apprehended when he was trying to abscond the country and he was trying to return to Dubai. When the police found him, they were able to trace the hammer and the knife which were used in killing of Sukhjeet. Despite taking both of these people in custody, they were both granted bail shortly after their apprehension. In the interim period, Ramandeep's passport was seized and so was Gagandeep's passport. However, the two sons were sent back to the UK to live with Sukhjeet's sister Kulvinder. The older son, Arjun, in fact, later gave a deposition via Skype on March 20th of 2017. While her children were in the UK, Ramandeep was staying with her family acquaintances in various locations such as Ludhiana and Machhiwara. Once the police started digging deeper, several things came to light. For example, there seems to be a property and insurance angle to Sukhjeet's killing. The prosecution alleges that They've obtained records of phone calls for over a year between the two lovers in which they conspired to get rid of Sukhjeet. So, as I mentioned, the killing happened in 2017, and in the past 7 years, the police have uncovered that Ramandeep's family was in fact eyeing property that Sukhjeet owned in the UK, as well as his mother's house in Uttar Pradesh, India. Bunce Kaur, the mother of Sukhjeet, has been fighting to get justice for her murdered son for the past 7 years and has in fact attended every single court date. The court is around 40 kilometers away from her house, and this is a woman in her late 70s, and she makes it there every single time. This woman has nerves of steel. She already lost her own husband in 1991, and for the past 7 years, she's been fighting for justice for her murdered child, her murdered son. She's tried to keep his memory alive. She's ensured that her grandsons continue to stay with her own daughter, Kuljeet, in the UK, so that Ramandeep's side of the family would not have any undue influence on the children. However, Ramandeep's defense in this case say that the only reason why her older son testified against her is not because he witnessed the killing of his father, it's actually because he's been coached by his aunt and his grandmother. Ramandeep's own family has been standing beside her, and they've spent substantial amounts of money in the past 7 years trying to get her as much legal help as possible while she's been languishing in jail. This case finally came to court in the year 2023, which was the past year, and the judge had some really strong words to say to Ramandeep. In the meanwhile, Ramandeep has continued to speak to the media, and she told them several things. For example, she's been talking about how nobody from the British High Commission came to meet her. In several interviews to several UK newspapers, it's been reported that Ramandeep is in a very small cell which is supposed to house a maximum of 5 convicts. However, in her small cell, she has 55 women sleeping on the floor. However, in 2023, the case was finally resolved in the courts, and the judge pronounced a life imprisonment for Gagandeep for killing his best friend Sukhjeet, and shockingly, the same judge pronounced a death sentence for Ramandeep. The judge specifically said in his judgment, quote, "Not only Sukhjeet was murdered, but the remaining years of an elderly widow was killed. The childhood as well as the youth of 2 minor children was exterminated. The children have lost the happiness which they had when their father was alive," unquote. Reacting to the same verdict, Sukhjeet's own mother, Bunce Kaur, she said, quote, "I feel relieved. My prayers were answered and I got what I was expecting from the court. I was demanding capital punishment for Ramandeep so that no mother's child dies like mine," unquote. Now that I've told you all the facts of the case, I'm going to draw your attention to the law part of the case. Now, this was clearly a love triangle. But what really caught my attention about this case was the unusual part about justice. Truly, the crime was horrific, but the judge in his sentencing pointed out that he did not like the way Ramandeep was acting in the court during her trial. She was very mean and disrespectful and vicious to her mother-in-law. Now, clearly, Bunce Kaur is a victim here. Her son has been murdered. But usually in court cases around the world, in other jurisdictions, emotional utterances like the one that I just read out to you are not really included in the judgment. It can actually be grounds for appeal for the defendant Ramandeep in the future if such utterances are given by the judge, because it shows a certain mindset towards bias.